What do the United States, the Soviet Union, and North Korea have in common? At one point, they all tax their citizens on their worldwide income, even if they live somewhere else. Out of that illustrious company, only the U.S. continues to do so today. Countries generally impose income taxes on residents of their countries or on income earned in their country. But today, only the U.S. attempts to impose full taxation on citizens of the U.S., even if they reside outside the U.S. and earn their income outside the U.S. There is one other country, Eritrea, which imposes a diaspora tax on its citizens, but it does so at a greatly reduced rate. No such luck in the U.S. The reason for taxing citizens is historical. Back when an income tax was first imposed during the Civil War, rich colonists tried to move to a different country to avoid the tax. The law imposed a 3% tax on incomes over $800, but a 5% tax on income earned in the U.S. by any citizen of the United States residing abroad. In fact, you can be a citizen of the United States even if you never set foot into the country. For example, if both your parents are U.S. citizens and married at the time of your birth, you are a U.S. citizen automatically, even if your parents had moved from the U.S. to France prior to your birth and you've never left France. The imposition of tax on income earned outside the U.S. comes from the 16th Amendment, which provides that, quote, the Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source derived. It's that last phrase, from whatever source derived, that grants Congress the power to impose worldwide taxation. The U.S. does not just tax its citizens, it taxes its residents as well, even if they are citizens of other countries. There are a couple of ways that a non-citizen will be treated as a taxed resident in the U.S. The first one is the green card test. If you've been granted the right to permanent residence in the U.S., evidenced by getting a card that happens to be green, you are a taxed resident once you spend 1 day here. The second test looks at how often you're in the U.S. Under the 183-day test, you are a taxed resident of the U.S. if you're here more than 183 days in a calendar year. Even if you're not here more than 183 days in a single year, you may still be a resident for any year that you're here for at least 31 days, and the days you're here this year, when added to 1/3 of the days you're here last year, and 1/6 of the days you were here 2 years ago, all add up to more than 183. For example, say John is present in the U.S. 126 days, 3 years in a row. Even though he's not present more than 183 days in any single year, when you add up the days in the current year, 126, plus 1/3 of the days last year, 42, plus 1/6 of the days in the year before that, 21, they add up to 189, well over the 183 days allowable. Nothing in tax, however, is ever that simple. Some days don't count at all. And John might not be treated as a U.S. resident if he can show that he's a resident of another country and has a closer connection to that country than he does to the U.S. The problem created by worldwide taxation of citizens is that it opens the door for double and triple taxation. For example, a U.S. citizen residing in country A but working in country B could be taxed 3 times on the same income: by the U.S. based on citizenship, by country A based on residency, and by country B because that's where the income was earned. Even with taxation based just on citizenship, multiple taxation is possible: by the country of citizenship and again by the country where the income was earned. It is also that 2 or more countries believe you to be a resident of their country and each try to tax you. There are a number of ways that the U.S. addresses this problem. First, certain foreign earned income is excluded from U.S. taxation under Section 911. Second, if income is taxed both by a foreign country and the U.S., You can get a foreign tax credit, which reduces your U.S. tax by the foreign taxes paid, subject to certain limitations. Finally, the U.S. enters into income tax treaties with a number of countries, which attempt to reduce or completely eliminate the double tax problem. So, what to do if you're a U.S. citizen who wants to escape U.S. taxation? Ask Facebook co-founder Eduardo Saverin. Saverin was born in Brazil and moved to the U.S. as a child to avoid the threat of kidnapping for ransom in Brazil. About 6 months before Facebook went public, Saverin turned in his U.S. passport, renounced his U.S. citizenship, and moved to Singapore. Saverin did not completely avoid tax on his Facebook stock. He was treated as having sold all of his assets at their fair market value on the date he gave up his citizenship and paid tax on the net gain, even though he didn't actually sell anything. However, assuming the value of his Facebook stock 6 months before it went public was significantly less than his public offering value, he greatly reduced his tax bill. Additionally, he will not have to pay U.S. tax on any future gains he has on his Facebook stock. And he won't pay tax in Singapore either, since Singapore does not tax capital gains on investments outside of Singapore. Saverin is not alone. Almost 1,800 people renounced their U.S. citizenship in 2011. And some famous people in the past have too, or at least tried to. Elizabeth Taylor tried in 1965, but she failed to do all the paperwork properly. Terry Gilliam of Monty Python fame renounced his U.S. citizenship and moved to the UK. And probably the most famous of all, chess champion Bobby Fischer is now a citizen of Iceland. Come to think of it, international tax is just a game of chess.